I gave 40 years of my life to money, and when I finally stopped running, I looked around and realized it had taken everything I actually wanted in exchange for everything I thought I needed. That's where I want to start. Not with a story, not with a lesson, just that one truth, sitting there like a stone in your chest. Because if you're watching this at 30 or 40 or 50, I need you to feel that before we go any further. I am 93 years old. I want you to understand what that means. It means I have watched my wife take her last breath in a hospital bed while holding my hand. It means I have stood at the graves of men I grew up with, men I played baseball with as a boy, men who had the same dreams I had and the same fears I had. Most of them are gone now. And in those final conversations, the ones you have with people when they know time is short, almost none of them talked about their careers. Almost none of them mentioned a promotion or a bonus or the house they built or the car they drove. They talked about their children. They talked about mornings they wished they hadn't rushed through. They talked about the look on someone's face when they said something they couldn't take back. They talked about time, always time. I am not speaking to you from a place of theory. I am speaking to you from the other side of a life, and from here, the view is very different than I expected. Let me tell you something specific. I won't speak in generalities because I think generalities let people off the hook. They let you nod along and then go back to whatever you were doing. So let me tell you about a Tuesday evening in October 1974. My daughter was 7 years old. She had been rehearsing a small performance at school. I don't even remember now exactly what it was. Some kind of autumn recital, children singing songs about leaves falling. She had told me about it for 2 weeks. She had practiced in the living room. She had asked me 3 times if I was coming, and I had said yes, 3 times, with complete sincerity, because in that moment I meant it. That Tuesday afternoon, my manager called me into his office and told me there was a client meeting running late, an important client, the kind that could change things, he said, the kind that would be noticed by the right people. I stayed. I sat in that conference room, and I smiled and I shook hands and I talked about numbers. My daughter performed that evening without me in the audience. My wife took her. My wife sat in that folding chair in the school gymnasium and watched our daughter look out at the crowd. And I know this because my wife told me years later, gently, without accusation, the way good people tell you hard truths. My daughter scanned the room for my face. She looked for me, and then she found her mother's face, and she smiled, and she performed her songs. I got the promotion that year. I am telling you this not so that you pity me. I am telling you this so that you understand the trade was real. I didn't lose her that night. She grew up. She became a woman I am deeply proud of. We repaired things over time as best we could. But something happened in that gymnasium that I cannot go back and undo. She looked for my face. I wasn't there. And no amount of money I earned that year, or any year after it, has ever filled that particular space. I made that trade dozens of times. Hundreds, maybe. Some were smaller, some were larger. There was a summer I missed most of because I was trying to close a deal that fell through anyway by November. There were Sunday mornings I spent on the phone instead of at the breakfast table. There were vacations I half attended, my mind somewhere else, my body present, but my attention pointed at problems that, I promise you, resolved themselves without me. My wife used to say I was always preparing for a life I never quite arrived at. She wasn't angry when she said it. That was almost worse. She was just accurate. Now let me talk about the belief itself, because the behavior is just a symptom. The real problem was what I believed. I believed that security came from money, that if I had enough, and the number kept changing, but if I had enough, then I would be safe. My family would be safe. I could relax. I could be present. I could be the man I actually wanted to be. Once the work was done, the work was never done. That's the part they don't tell you when you're young and ambitious and convinced you're building towards something. The finish line moves. Every time you reach the number you decided would be enough, something shifts. The economy, your expectations, your fear, and suddenly Enough is further away than it was before. I spent 4 decades running toward a line that was engineered to stay just ahead of me, and I ran hard. I ran honestly. I wasn't a dishonest man. I wasn't neglectful in the way people think of as obvious neglect. I provided. I showed up to the important things, most of them. I loved my family, but I confused providing with presence, and I confused achievement with worth. That second one is harder to admit, because underneath the ambition, underneath the long hours and the meetings and the striving, was a quieter and more embarrassing belief that I was worth more when I earned more, that my value as a person was legible in my salary, in my title, in whether people at a dinner party were impressed when they asked what I did. I built my identity on something that had nothing to do with who I actually was, and then I retired, and the calls stopped, and the meetings stopped, and the identity I had spent 40 years building simply evaporated, and I had to figure out, at 67 years old, who I was when no one was asking me what I did for a living. That is a disorienting thing to discover late. I am not sure I ever fully answered it. So here is what I know, not what I believe, not what sounds good, what I actually know from having lived it. Money is a tool. That's the complete truth of it. It is a tool the way a hammer is a tool. A hammer can help you build something, or it can sit in a drawer, or if you're not careful, it can hurt someone. The hammer is not the point. What you're building is the point. And if you spend your life obsessing over the hammer, you will look up one day and realize you forgot to build anything. I had a very good hammer. I kept it very sharp. I spent enormous energy maintaining it and acquiring better versions of it. And the house I actually wanted, the relationships, the presence, the peace, I built less of that than I should have. The tool became the purpose. That is the confusion I am warning you about. Time is what you are actually spending. Every hour is a purchase. You are buying something with it, whether you intend to or not. When I worked late on a Tuesday in October 1974, I bought a promotion. The price was a seat in a school gymnasium. I made that choice. I want you to understand that I made it. It wasn't done to me. No one forced me. I chose, and every day you are making the same kind of choice, possibly without realizing it. You are deciding what you're buying and what you're willing to pay. I want you to make that decision consciously. I want you to know you're spending something real. Your employer will replace you. I know that's not pleasant to hear, but it is so plainly and obviously true that I don't know why it surprises people. I was replaced within 2 weeks of retiring, not out of cruelty. That's simply how organizations function. They find someone, they train them, they move forward. The work continues. The company does not mourn you, and it shouldn't. That's not a criticism. It's simply the nature of the arrangement. You are a professional. They are a business. That is a clean and honest transaction, and there's nothing wrong with it. But you must not confuse that transaction for meaning. You must not hand it your whole life and expect it to give you back something it was never designed to give. Your family cannot replace you. That's the other side of the same truth. Your children have one father, one mother. Your spouse made a choice to share a life with you, specifically you, not your income or your title. The people who love you are not interchangeable with other people. You are not replaceable to them, the way you are replaceable at work. And yet most people, most people, spend their irreplaceable hours at the place that would replace them without hesitation, and spend their replaceable hours at home, distracted, half-present, saving their best attention for the office. I had it exactly backwards. And the last thing, and I say this gently but without softening it, you cannot buy back lost time. That is not a metaphor. It is a literal fact. The Tuesday in October 1974 does not exist anywhere I can reach anymore. My daughter is in her 50s now. My wife is gone. The years are gone. What I did with them is what I did with them, and wishing otherwise is the only truly useless activity available to a human being. I am not telling you this to despair. I am telling you this because the Tuesday you still have, the one that hasn't happened yet, is still yours to spend, and I want you to spend it with more awareness than I did. I want to end simply because I don't have the energy for anything complicated, and honestly, neither does the truth. You are going to run out of time. You know this, but you don't feel it yet, not the way I feel it. One day you will. One day you will sit somewhere quiet, and the arithmetic will become very clear, and you will count backward, and you will see what you spent and on what, and that reckoning will be one of the most important moments of your life. Don't wait for that moment to start choosing differently. The money is not the enemy. Wanting stability is not the enemy. Working hard is not a flaw. But when the work becomes the whole answer, when it becomes the place you hide from harder questions, when it becomes the thing you love because it asks less of you than the people waiting at home, that is when it starts costing you something you cannot afford to lose. Look at your life right now, not the life you're planning, the one you're actually living today. What is it full of? What have you been postponing? Who has been waiting for you to arrive? I gave 40 years to money. It never loved me back. You still have time to make a different trade. Use it carefully.